Question 21 of the Calculator Active Math 1 released items. Which equation represents the line that is perpendicular to the graph of 4x plus 3y equals 9 and passes through negative 2, 3? We have four answer choices. Read through those choices, pause the video, and try this question on your own. Okay, we're going to go over it in 3, 2, 1. So first, you got to know what perpendicular means. Perpendicular means they cross at 90-degree angles. Here's the symbol for perpendicular in case it looks like this, and they make right angles. Right angles, think about it like the corner of a paper or a room. It's just going to be 90 degrees. Right angles look something like this. You might have two lines crossed like this, and that looks like it would be able to fit a corner of a piece of paper in there. That's how you know they're perpendicular. The other type of angles or the type of lines you'll see would be parallel, and they don't cross. So parallel. So you don't have to know a thing about the actual slopes on the calculator active portion. If you just know to look for perpendicular is they're going to cross at right angles, and parallel they're going to be never crossing. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you a graphical approach first, and then I'll show you how to do this by hand using slopes and the equation of a line. So let's get up Desmos. So first we want to visualize the graph of 4x plus 3y equals 9, and we'll simply graph that. You can see it's going to have a negative slope because it's going down as it's going to the right. And we want a graph that is perpendicular to that line that goes to the point negative 2, comma 3. Let me clear off my annotations here. All right, so we could think about this graph as, I mean, you can literally just graph your answer choices and see which one's going to work. You want a line that's going to be somewhat like this, that hits the point negative 2, comma 3, and makes roughly a right angle, at least by visual check. So it should be pretty obvious when you graph your answer choices. So if I graph, let's say I want to test answer choice A. I'll say 3x minus 4y, and I'll say equals negative 18. And that looks like it's going to be the answer. But if you're taking the exam, you're going to test all your answer choices, right? So you're going to look at 3x plus 4y equals positive 18. And you can see right away that that's not going to be perpendicular, so we'll hide that one. 3x minus 4y equals negative 6. And that does look like it makes a right angle, but it doesn't go through the point negative 2, 3. So that's going to be out. And then the other one, 3x plus 4y equals 6. And once again, we have a line that is not perpendicular, and that's not going to cross. It does cross to the point negative 2, 3, but it's not perpendicular. So out of these two choices, the ones that are perpendicular to it are the 3x minus 4y equals negative 18. So that's going to be your answer. I'm also going to take you through a way to do this by hand in case you come to a question like this on the calculator inactive portion where you don't have Desmos to back you up. So to get a perpendicular line that goes through a point, you would want to get the slope of this line. And perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocals. So the slope of the perpendicular line is going to have opposite, which means the sign's going to change, reciprocal, which means the rise over run will flip. So it's like the run over the rise from the other line. So opposite reciprocal. So we can get this solved for y, and we can subtract the 4x from both sides, and that's going to give you 3y is equal to negative 4x plus 9. I'm going to write the negative 4x first so I can get it in slope-intercept form. Then I'm going to divide everything by 3. In this case, I'm going to get the slope and y-intercept divided by 3 separately. That way you can see what the y-intercept is. So that slope is going to be negative 4/3 x, and then 9 divided by 3 is going to be 3. So that's going to be your slope of the original line. So to get an opposite reciprocal, I'm going to flip that fraction. So instead of saying 4/3, I'm going to say 3/4, and I'm going to change the sign of it. So it's going to be positive 3/4. So you can see over here, you can solve all of these for y and get the slope, but the shortcut for getting the slope when it's in standard form is to take this number, divide it by the number next to y, so the coefficient of x divided by the coefficient of y, and switch in the sign. So if you know that that slope is negative 4/3, you can actually take this 3 and negative 4 and divide them. And since it's 3 divided by negative 4, if you switch to sign, that's going to be positive 3/4. So that's going to be a positive 3/4 slope. This is going to be a 3/4, since these are both positive, and then you're going to make that switch, so it's negative 3/4. So that's not going to work there. This is going to be 3/-4 again, so that's going to be switched to 3/4. So that's also got a positive 3/4 slope. And this slope is going to be 3/4, but since they're both positive, one of them is going to switch to negative. So you can see here that these two have the wrong slopes to begin with because they're not the opposite, whereas these two have a slope of 3/4 because we had to switch those negatives to positive. Now, as far as knowing what the slope is, the next step is to, once you have the slopes 3/4, you have to plug in the point -2, 3. So use the y equals mx plus b. You could use point slope form if you remember, but most of y'all probably remember y equals mx plus b, correct? So if you knew to get the slope and you say negative 4/3, you flip it to get positive 3/4 and switch the sign to positive 3/4, then we know that that slope should be 3/4. And we want it to go through the point to negative 2, 3. So that negative 2 is the x value, the 3 is the y value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in the 3 for the y, and I'm going to plug in the negative 2 for the x. And now we can solve this for b. So by doing a little bit of multiplication, we can say negative or 3/4 times negative 2. So this is going to be 3 equals, this will be negative 6 divided by 4 plus b. We can reduce negative 6/4 to, since they're both divisible by 2, negative 3/2. So this will be 3 equals negative 3/2 plus b. Now, negative 3/2 is negative 1.5. So 3 equals negative 1.5 plus b. Since that's a negative, I'm going to add 1.5 to both sides. And I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to take this over here. 3 plus 1.5 is going to be 4.5. And that's going to be my y-intercept. So my equation from here, with this y-intercept and this slope, this is your m value, I would write it in slope-intercept form. It's going to be y equals 3/4 x plus 4.5. Now, I'd have to get that in standard form to match this up to your answer choices. So since this is a 4 underneath these fractions, I'm going to multiply every term by 4 to get rid of that fraction. So I'll say 4 times y, 4 times this, 4 times this. Now, if you need a calculator, you can definitely use a calculator since this is the calculator active portion of the test. And this is going to be 4y equals, the 4's will cancel out here, so 3x. And 4 times 4.5, you might not know what that is, but that's going to end up being 18. So plus 18. And hopefully you can see now what's going on with this. So if you bring the 3x over, that's going to be minus 3x on both sides. And that's going to be 4y minus 3x equals 18, which that's not technically standard form. Standard form is having the x first. So that would be negative 3x plus 4y is equal to 18. Now that would be fine for me, but your answer choice does not look like that, does it? Your answer choice has the x being positive because we know that A is the answer because we already got this answer like 5 years ago. But when we do the answer, you're going to basically, if you multiply everything in the equation by -1, that'll switch the signs of everything and make it equivalent. So that's going to end up being positive 3x minus 4y and equals negative 18. Now, I would not recommend this approach on the exam unless you're just got time to kill and you know how to do it like that quickly, because the way we got it with the graph is honestly much, much faster. So if you can recognize perpendicular is just going to make right angles, you'd be good to go on this one. We knew the answer was A, but that's how you do it by hand in case you're interested. Thank you for watching.